With a tariff threat, we're replacing the strong military threat with a strong economy to trade with. The good thing about that threat is that it costs zero if it's not used, as opposed to the military, which costs a lot of money even though it's not used. So it's a very good weapon to basically get, a big stick for other countries, particularly when it's not used, which is the great part of this.
Shaking up the global economy, that's the plan for Trump 2.0. He's getting his sights on, setting them rather, on renegotiating just about everything, with the stakes getting even higher than ever. Joining us now with unique insight into the president's trade strategy is former Trump administration Assistant Commerce Secretary and trade expert Nazak Nikakhtar. Hope I got that right. Nazak, great to have you on the program. So let's talk about tariffs, because to the point that he was making right there, people panicked when they heard about this. They started saying it's going to be inflationary. Oh, my God, it's going to destroy the economy. I said, this is a negotiating tool. He's done this before. We may see some sort of tariff. It may not be 25%. The thoughts about how Trump is using this as a stick to kind of ease into these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, the markets love hysteria. And it's really important to take a step back and evaluate what the president is doing. We have massive distortions in the global market, and much of those distortions have been caused by countries subsidizing their exports, dumping their exports in the United States, et cetera, right? And so those distortions are spilling over into the U.S. So absolutely, the reason that Trump is talking about imposing tariffs like he did in the first administration is to address the distortions. And then once our trading partners agree, if they agree to remove to remove their distortions, then we can remove the tariffs. And if they don't agree to remove this distortions that's hurting the U.S. economy, then we need the tariffs to offset the low prices, the distortive effects on the U.S. economy.
Everything we read as well is, oh my gosh, tariffs are inflationary, and everyone just voted on inflation being too high. But you come armed with great statistics about the average inflation rate of Trump during the first term, during the tariffs, that was not 2%.
That's right. I mean, where the ideal point for inflation for a healthy economy is 2%, right? I mean, with President Biden, we have an inflation rate of 5.2. With George W. Bush, we had about 2.8. With Clinton, we had 2.6. Trump's first term was 1.9. And this is post the catastrophic sort of effects of that COVID posed.
Right.
And he was still able to maintain inflation at that ideal healthy point, right? So the Trump knows what he's doing. He's a smart guy. He's got smart guys around him. He imposed tariffs in the first term, and then he used taxes to offset the impact of the tariffs.
Pro-growth.
And let me also stress, China absorbs the tariffs. China does not translate the tariffs that we impose on it into higher prices. They will manipulate their currency, and they will actually reduce their prices to absorb. So we're not going to see the catastrophic price inflation that people are worried about. That's just nonsense.
Let me ask you about another country trying to figure out what to do with all the tariff talk, Canada, okay?
Yeah.
And they're kind of leaderless right now, trying to figure out how to respond to Trump. We talked to Danielle Smith, Premier of Alberta. She says, look, we've got to have a great trading relationship with the U.S. You sat right at the center of this in the Commerce Department. Let's say you're advising Canada right now. What should the new prime minister do to create a win-win situation and maybe even avoid some of the tariffs that we're talking about?
I mean, there's no question that our relationship with Canada is absolutely important to the economy. If we can really integrate our supply chains, I mean, we have an existential threat of beating China. And if we can integrate our economy and integrate our workforce with Canada, right, that makes us even more powerful. But the big but is that we have problems with Canada, Canada's subsidization of its agriculture industry. The immigration issues, allowing China to circumvent U.S. trade restrictions through Canada, with the Canadian government looking the other way. So it's really important that the Canadian government right now in this interim period choose a leader who's going to acknowledge these issues, tackle these issues head on, because if that relationship is important to Canada, they're going to work with the United States to resolve the trade frictions so we can get into a situation we can both have economic growth and we can both benefit from each other's economies.
We were talking to Larry Kudlow yesterday. He brought up the concept of a universal tariff, said it's being floated. Other countries have experimented with it, use it. It would generate a lot of revenue. Your thoughts on that? Is that where we end up?
So there's a lot of sort of legal basis and economic basis for the global tariffs, right? And there's a lot of people have thought about it. But fundamentally, the tariff revenue that we can incur is so important because we have significant rip and replace problems, right? We have a lot of things that we need to do, tax cuts, et cetera, to make our economy healthier. And those tariffs, remember, they offset the distortions in the global markets. So we fix distortions, make our economies healthier, and also enable rip and replace to the really problematic Chinese software, hardware that we have in our infrastructure across the United States. It makes sense from every angle that you look at it.
Nazak, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
My
Really good.
pleasure.
I'm going to call you the tariff whisperer. That was a really good explanation.
rundown.
of the issue.
I like that term.
Thank you.
Thank you.